Hey guys, it's Jody. First, I want to apologize because I've just been, I think probably like everybody, a little bit depressed and hard to motivate, and I fell off of communicating with all of you guys about taking care of your victory over the virus garden box projects. But I'm here today with a couple of thoughts to share, ideas, and I'm happy to answer follow-up questions. So the first thing is, I hope that your boxes are all planted out and that you're starting to enjoy watching the plants grow. I know it seemed like a really wet spring. I haven't looked at the actual statistics, but I think it's actually not been as wet as we would think. I know at least last week there was one day where it seemed like it rained all morning long, and when I went out and checked my rain barrel, which was pretty much empty, there was just a couple of inches of new rain in it, which means that even though it was like actively precipitating for like 4 or 5 hours in a row, it wasn't raining very much. So it's really important that you keep monitoring your soil to make sure that it's actually wet. And if it seems like your plants are kind of stunted in their growth, it probably means they're not getting enough water. The other thing that you can do is try fertilizing, and I wanted to offer everybody an opportunity to get some fertilizer from me. I was hoping to get your trays back from you so I could reuse them. So you all paid a $5 tray deposit, and I wanted to offer a fertilizer exchange instead of the refund. So if you would like to bring back your tray and get a cup of fertilizer in exchange, contact me by email and we'll arrange it. I have 2 different products available, and I think they're both great. This is what I typically use for greens, and you can see it's numbers 511, and that 5 is the nitrogen number. And greens really like nitrogen. So especially now while our soil is still warming up, it's hard for plants to get nutrients directly from the soil when the soil's not warm. And so liquid fertilizers go straight through the leaves and straight to the roots. And so this is a really great product. You can go to Lowe's and just buy a big bottle, or I'm happy to fill up a small jar for you and trade it out for you. You put, I think it's 2 tablespoons into a gallon of water. I usually just like put a little glug into my watering can, but if you're interested in using it, I can, in getting it from me, I'll be sure to give you instructions, and then you just water it over your plants. It's always a good idea when you're using any kind of liquid or foliar feed to water first, so that the soil is wet, and then fertilize. I can't explain exactly scientifically why that makes the most sense, but if you just think about it, it's kind of like when you go to a dinner party and you go hungry and then you kind of eat all the junk food, or you don't, you don't get filled up quickly, I guess. But that you're sort of starting in a place that's level, and then you're giving it this food, as opposed to it's starting out like yearning for something, and then it's just kind of grabbing onto that. So so that's my very imprecise, unscientific description of fertilizer. So the second thing I wanted to talk really briefly about today was the difference between what we call a cut and come again crop and something that you would like harvest completely. So I'm looking around for some things that I can show you. So I gave everybody a couple of onions, and you can try to grow those into big bulb onions like you'd buy in the store. I'll say that in all my years of farming, I've had a really hard time growing onions, and what I understand is they need a lot of water. So we've talked in the past about an inch of water per week. Onions, from what I understand, need like 2 to 3 inches of water a week to make a really big bulb like we're used to seeing in the store. So what I do with my onions a lot is treat them, instead of just like a harvest the bulb kind of crop, and I don't know what the word for that is, like a single harvest crop, is a cut and come again crop. So if you see, this is an onion plant that's actually been in the high tunnel since last year, and I come in, I don't know if you can see it on this one so much, but I've been coming in and just basically taking the tops off and using them as like a green onion or scallion, and they're really great for that. So I definitely encourage you to give that a try. You can also try that on some of the crops like the tatsoi and the pak choi. I would let the Napa cabbage like really grow out, as well as the radicchio. Oh, there's some lettuces in here that I can show you as well. This is a chard plant. Again, like everything in here in the tunnel's been around a while, but chard and kale are cut and come again crops. So you're just gonna take the biggest leaves that you find and then come back in a few days or a week and cut them again. So that's cut and come again versus like full harvest. And let's see, I have some lettuces here. Again, these are, Janine and I were actually talking about this when she picked up her boxes. So it's hard for me because I can't turn this camera around while I'm actively filming. But these lettuces were in the tunnel all winter. And you can see that they're romaine lettuces. This is a variety from the Fedco Seed Corporation that's called Freckles. You can understand why. So romaine, you know this because you've bought it at the store, comes in a head typically. And so you can basically harvest the entire head of lettuce, or you can just pull individual leaves off. So I've been actually coming in here because it was kind of coming slowly back from the winter and just taking some of the big leaves off and letting it keep going. And so that's a way that you can keep the plants producing for you for a long time. When you're ready, or if you're ready, at a certain point it's going to get hot, and romaine lettuce doesn't really like the heat. Most of the lettuces that I gave you don't like the heat that much. There are other varieties you can buy that are more heat tolerant. But then you will just pull the whole head off from the base. So I'm going to try to do that so you can see. I don't have any scissors or a knife with me right now. It's giving me a hard time, probably because it's old and crotchety. But now I pulled it off. And then you can see that this was at one time one single head. This is where the root was, and now it's got these smaller heads. And you can even see a new one forming. So if you leave the root in, it will start to generate a new plant for you. And it's just started raining, so I'm glad that I decided to do this from the comfort of the high tunnel. So that kind of gets me to that last thing, the last thing I was going to talk to you about today, which was roots. And so my suggestion is that you leave your plants in the ground as long as you can and keep harvesting from them by using these cut and come again processes. And then when they're finally finished, so like here's a cilantro plant that, again, it's been in the tunnel all winter, and you can see that it's getting these down below, you can kind of see leaves that look a little bit more like the familiar cilantro leaves that you would buy in the store. And then these at the top are more frilly, and it's much, much taller than it should be. So it's getting ready to set seeds, and I'm going to actually leave it. I gave some people some seeds that we had harvested from a crop last year. But I'm going to let these go so I can get a new seed harvest. But when I'm ready to be done with this plant, I'm going to cut it off at the base. And you guys can certainly let yours go to seed and get your own seed harvest, which you can also use the seed as the spice that we know as coriander. But for whether it's cilantro or anything else, when you're finished with it, I suggest you just cut it at the base and let the roots just decompose in the soil. That provides some rich like food for the microorganisms in your soil, as well as those leaves disappear, they're going to leave pathways in the soil for water and for air to get in to feed your plants. So that's 3 lessons in 9 minutes. So I don't want to oversaturate you guys, but please do send me photos. Let me know how things are going. Help me get remotivated, I guess. I think that I reached my first peak and then my fall, so I'm ready for another peak. Anyway, take care. Peace.